Now, this gives me great pleasure to bring up Marloes Knippenberg, who's going to be moderating the next session, which is going to be how do we foster transformation and change in hospitality. Marloes, I'd like you to come to the stage and introduce your panel today.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. David Keane, Mike Levie, invite you up here. It's actually an honor and a privilege to be hosting this panel today. And I'm pretty sure I've been given the most difficult task of all panels, but you'll see that in the next 20 minutes. Before we start, I would like to do the introductions, and I'd like to start with you, David. Your dear friend, and I think that's one of the most important things to me. But as the owner of KUBE, you're really transformational in the way that you develop brands, the way that you look at destinations. And I often say this, but there's nobody as anal about brands as David is. But you know, there's certain people that could put their finger on a problem or their finger on something that's really important and create this into something of real value and meaning, and you're one of these people. We met at a panel in London, and you know how you meet so many people, like you are here now at these conferences, and there are just very few that you stay in contact with, and very few that become very close. And David inspired me, and he talked about change already at that time, and there's so very few people that put their hands and their actions where their words are. So, David, thank you very much for being here. Michael Levie, I can just say I'm a big fan. So, you know, you have been at the forefront of change in this industry for a very long time. And we've only been dealing with each other for over a year. And, you know, like many probably, we know you as the visionary and the mastermind behind CitizenM. And you know, when we speak in these panels, we often refer to the lobby, and you really were one of the first ones to take that lobby and transform that, take technology to a different level. And you accepted every single mistake and challenge and everything that came on your path. And like many, I'd say, you know, the CitizenM phase is one part, but as I'm talking to you more and as we're dealing more, I didn't know that you have such a knowledge and such an experience with regards to technology, building up businesses, developing successful businesses, your own and other people's, and that you have such a genuine passion for the industry. So with having said this and having introduced you both, I hope I've set the bar high with regards to what we're going to be talking about. David, I would really like to pose the first question to you, and that's really kind of the title of this panel. How do we foster transformation and change in our hospitality industry?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's a huge honor. Thank you, Marloes, and thank you for the beautiful introduction. It's extremely meaningful and very warm. I believe that transformation and everything that we've been talking about today during the session, and that everyone has been talking about really a lot during the pandemic, and I do think that transformation was catalyzed but not created by the pandemic. I think it happens one step at a time. I think that in other industries, certainly in Silicon Valley 20 years ago, and in other industries, in the car industry particularly, it's what Tesla did, and Mike was talking about this the other day, what Tesla has done to the car industry has created a point which it can't go back from. I think, and I'm not saying this because Michael's on stage, CitizenM did that to a certain extent in the hotel industry, but transformation only comes one step at a time, and it's so wonderful to see the innovations, the sustainability innovations that we were looking at this morning, and each each endeavor, whether it works or it doesn't work, is one step to a fundamental shift within an industry. And that's everything we're thinking about and everything that we're talking about.
But you just referencing the innovation of this morning. You're part of the innovation dance and the pitches. There is so many ideas out there at the moment, and 90% or maybe 85% of these ideas don't go much further than the first 6 months. Come with a lot of noise, burn a bit of money, and then nothing happens. How do you see that you or we can actually physically make sure that those ideas are going to be implemented or are taken or go further than just I'm saying just.
Well, I think one has to deconstruct an idea. I think the first step is to deconstruct an idea, and as you said, I think it's 85% of all startups don't make it. But probably in every single idea, there's a nucleus, or there's some thought that we can learn from. And I think if we apply our values and generosity and intelligence and listening to those ideas, we can learn from them. And from the ideas that we believe can work, can go forward, it's about incubation. It's about methodology. It's about applying values. It's about creation of structure, not just financial structure, but the methodology, the corporate structure, the values of an organization. We'll talk about also, I'm sure Michael will talk about the conscience of an organization. It's bringing in all of those critical facets and bringing them to the fore and creating an enabling platform, creating intelligence, creating trust amongst all of the stakeholders that take that forward.
Michael, I think there is these are fantastic words, correct? And these are great ideas, and we've seen so many fantastic ideas this morning. But even when you look at the jury of the Sustainable and Innovation Challenge this morning, I mean, these are all important CEOs, MDs, COOs of mature, big, not so agile companies, and not because they don't want to be agile, but how do they take transformation and how do they actually transform or go with where this change is going?
Yeah, I think that what we as ownership or asset management often look at is the financial KPIs. And financial KPIs are obviously fundamental and important, but there's more than financial KPIs, and I call it beyond asset management. So what is beyond asset management? There are a lot of intangibles. Guest satisfaction, employee satisfaction, productivity, your branding, your reach, your purpose. There's so many things that need to be monitored over time next to those financial KPIs to know for sure that the vision and the values are carried out. And only that culture in an organization gives stability, consistency in product, and consistency in output. So the financial KPIs will show the outcome of it, but those intangibles made tangible need to guide an organization or the supervision of an organization as well. And I think that there needs to be more focus there.
But do you think that will actually lead to defining intangible KPIs or changing exact KPIs?
I think that they're maybe not used today, but if you look in many industries and you say NPS, everybody goes like, yeah, sure, Net Promoter Score. If you do that in our industry, they go like, not heard of it. A while ago, when we started to look at guest reviews, one of the companies said, let's create the GRI, the Guest Review Index. And now we start to use the Guest Review Index so that we can actually measure our guest satisfaction against others and utilize our organizations to improve and learn. So maybe on employee satisfaction or maybe on other intangibles, we're capable with the right light on it to sort of develop measurable KPIs that together mount up, because it's not one financial KPI we look at. We look at a whole, gathering of KPIs for it to make sense to us.
And do you think that companies have the resources and not just funds, but the resources to be able to take this on or take responsibility for this or drive this?
I think they do have the resources, but they do not necessarily make it a priority and choose to put those resources to work in those particular areas. The pandemic is interesting to see now that we're slowly climbing out of it and we see some great progress. All of a sudden there is this big cry for, oh, we need staff. Well, maybe if we would have measured our guest satisfaction, if we would have had, or employee satisfaction, if we would have had a relationship with our teams, if the teams would have the same values as we were striving for, and there was a closeness, then post-pandemic, even if they had to be laid off because of financial circumstances, we would have a relationship maybe to bring them back. I don't say there is a guarantee, but right now there was nothing. So I think that by force, we will start to see that certain organizations do a better job at it. If you look beyond our industry, there are organizations that do that very well. The tech world is very good at it, but a lot of more contemporary organizations choose to have a more participatory and not a top-down hierarchy, but either an inverted pyramid or holacracy, and there's more focus on these particular areas.
And so when you take this, David, and go back to the entrepreneurs and the startups but also the ideas and the people that Michael just mentions. We're in Dubai at the moment. We've done many calls from Amsterdam, and we can add Barcelona, London, and all of these key locations into the mix. We saw incredible schools this morning from key locations, mostly in Europe. How do you see that this bottom-up approach can go on a much wider geographic span?
As I said, I think one of the reasons that it's no surprise that KUBE is up behind us, and I'm not trying to be commercial, but the reason why Michael and I have shared this partnership with some amazing other stakeholders is to create a movement for change. The Luddite that I describe, or the traditional industry that we are all proud of and want to celebrate, is in desperate need of that energy, of that entrepreneurialism, of that dynamism. And the reason why or how is to form a genuine, people talk about change, and the change that most people talk about is basically whether you have a blue chocolate or a pink chocolate on the pillow, and I'm being facetious, but it's, or that joke that we made in Hong Kong about 10 years ago about the folded toilet paper. That's not change. That is not change. Change is a mindset. It's a mind shift change. And it's that change that doesn't happen. It's coming from youth today. That change is endemic in the graduates that I can see in the audience from The Hague, and the graduates that we know from Lausanne and from Cornell and from Glion. They're excited, they're engaged. And what Michael and I started talking about, and hopefully will bring to life with KUBE, is a desire to join. In 10 years' time, we can look back and say, yeah, the hospitality industry is an industry of celebration. It's an industry of joy. It's an industry of dynamism, of entrepreneurialism, of intelligence, of technology. A place where the customer goes and enjoys themselves. The guest goes and they enjoy themselves. So it can't come from Michael and I, or from the three of us. It can only come where we engage with the industry, and the industry embarks through education, through ESG, through a sequence of fundamental change.
Marloes, yeah, maybe adding to that, I think that today is a great testimony of how much enthusiasm there is in the industry at all areas and all angles to embrace transformation. What I also believe is that we are an industry that is very slow in adaptation of change. And most of it sits because we have learned by experience and not necessarily by trade. So there's great hotel schools that are represented here, but that is not necessarily, like I mentioned earlier on the little tape that Jonathan played, is we're a rather undereducated industry. And because of the experience, we need to embrace the change, not be afraid of it, because we let go of something we have learned by experience, and we're endeavoring into something new that we don't know. That is, I think the moment is now to do that. The pandemic has had, speed behind it, but what we really need to do is help startups, help them succeed, hopefully, but if they fail, that's good too, because there's a lot to be learned from that as well. And if we all carry a little bit of that and all take a little bit of risk and all, if we do not 100% understand it, still dive in head first and help them, then I think that our industry will embrace those change. And that, like David said, that we all learn from every aspect a little bit. Let's do that.
And how do you see a collaboration and partnership come into this? Because I think one of the things that we've been talking all for years is, everybody goes into their own kind of pillar of let's do this, and we talk about transformation and we use the word change, and often people refer to technology as change, and that's the greatest thing that we can do in our industry. So I think my question to you is twofold. It is, one, are we going to collaborate to start working together? And two, where do you really see, other than technology, this change coming up that we should embrace or that we should all do something about?
I think that technology is a good example, because there was always a discussion, high touch or high feel. That discussion is gone because technology enables, and we still in hospitality have an interaction that needs to sit at the core. I think in change it's the same thing, is we can talk a lot about change or actually endeavor into it. And there is no perfect setting, there is no perfect scenario, so we need to try and error, because also the error is fine. But if we as an industry embrace that and assist with that, rather than first want to see a finished product, it needs to be proven 10 times over, and if I give it my nod, my signature, my go-ahead, then I cannot as a person have failed of making that decision. And I think that we as industry leaders need to say, okay, we got to be open to failure. One of the things in CitizenM that we did, we celebrate mistakes. It's wonderful.
And David, to come back, is, with what Michael is saying at the moment is, there is a lot of ideas going on in India. There is tons of ideas in Sweden. There is probably, taxes. Take a couple of random places. They might be big, but they're so disconnected from, we see a lot of the same faces. We are all talking here that we would like to do this. We're all nodding yes, because we can see that there's a need for this. But how are we going to find this? How are we going to nurture this? How are we going to connect that to others here?
Well, I think, we, as we know, we have been working closely with Jonathan and his team at Bench. I mean, we are, to a degree, limited in our reach, that's for sure, but our belief and our goal and our vision is to speak, to not hold back, to speak openly, where in whatever society that is, be that in the heart of Africa, in the heart of South America, or wherever it is, and take this idea of reaching that tipping point. It's not going to be it's not one idea, but it is a shift, it's a mindset shift. And it's that mindset shift of being open to embracing a more contemporary, a more sophisticated, more entrepreneurial, a more fun way of thinking about hospitality. As I said, how that will be, it's Gladwell, it's the tipping point, right? And we will reach that tipping point. We're crawling up a steep hill, but we will reach that tipping point.
And so for the last seconds that we have left, I'm going to ask one question to both of you. Why are you doing this, and why are you so passionate about this in 20 seconds? Michael first.
Well, I think that if you have been in this industry and the industry has been good to you, it's also good to give back. So that's my passion.
Very cool. David?
Because I can't rest until I see the industry realize its unbelievable potential. My son, who I'm very proud of, is sitting in the audience, and he said to me a few months ago, said, "Dad, the hospitality is not about service. It's about connecting to people, and it's about bringing cultures together." And yeah, that's what I want to see.
Thank you very much for this.
Thank you,
It's been
Marloes.
incredible.
Thank you, Marloes.
Marloes, thank you. Thank you so much, Marloes. Thank you so much, Michael.
And we kept them in the time.
Marloes, I mean, you, in your own way, are a change maker as well in what you're doing. So we love everything what you're doing and
Thank you.
learning from you. Thank you, guys. And CUBE Ventures, so excited to be launched here, all about incubating startups and helping startups through mentoring, education, and taking our industry forward and transforming our industry.